Jelena Krivcevic from the Regional Development Agency of Pielazica, Komovi and Prokletje. You are not for the first time in the tourism think tank because you participated as a listener, as part of the audience in last year's online one. And I remember Professor Dr. Harold Goodwin being very, very impressed by your work. You work in the northern part of Montenegro since 15 years on the truly sustainable development with rural households, etc., with a lot of good projects. What is your impression of this first live think tank that you are participating in?
I'm very glad that I have been here. Thank you for inviting me, and then for inviting me to present something that is very important for us as a subject, as a theme, which is Katun tourism, especially important because this think tank was about sustainable tourism, and we believe what we do in Katuns is truly and genuinely sustainable. So it was like really an honor for us to be part of this think tank and to present what we do.
Mm-hmm. And on the other side, the audience was super impressed by what Katuns are. And you gave some numbers there, which are kind of alarming. Can you repeat those numbers, please? Like existing Katuns and what is happening now?
These numbers are being verified by the end of next year. We will have, because we intend to visit all of the Katuns. But from the research we did so far, which is checking out satellite images and former old military maps, we used to have 1,200 Katuns active in past, with many families practicing this farming tradition. And currently we have around 400 Katuns that are active. So it's like a huge declining trend that we are experiencing. Of course, it has been happening over decades, over past decades. It's still happening as we speak. Each year we have less and less people unless we do something like yesterday, it's going to get even worse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of my first impressions from Montenegro mountains was really to stay at the Katun and speak with the people and learn to know what the Snežnica is, mm-hmm. and these things, and it felt really like a travel back in time 300 years ago, and journalists from Europe have also told, like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, and this traditional way of life, on the other hand, it is hard life. Where do you see the future of rural tourism, especially in the mountains of Montenegro?
I see it going, it has to develop. We cannot stop the development. Nobody wants to stop development. I'm just hoping, what I would like to see happening is like a very careful, very thoughtful and cautious development, so that the key values of Katuns are preserved while people living in Katuns are living comfortable, normal life as all modern people do, but without too many disruptions. Of course, that's people can say it's a fairy tale, it's not going to happen, but I hope it will, because I see enormous values in Katuns in many ways, in environmentally, culturally, socially, economically. It's at the core of the traditions of our people, of our identity. If we lose that, then what will we be?
Yeah, you will be, or this area will be like exchangeable with any other area. That is something very, very special, yeah, for Montenegro and the Western Balkans mountains. I fully agree. I would like to turn to Klaus Ehrlich now, General Secretary of Rural Tour. You can also repeat the numbers of your members. They are a little bit higher than the Katuns. What do you see as the key to truly good sustainable development? Because we could say that if it's not sustainable, you cannot call it development. What is needed here in comparison, let's say, to the Alps? What needs to change so that we are not destroying the basics?
Well, you ask about the figures. Of course, as a federation, European federation, we have a bit more than 400 Katuns. We can can multiply this by thousands, so it's about 400 to 500,000 services associated. But this covers all European countries, so of course it's not a comparison. Answering your questions, my impression is, in knowing several countries in the Balkans, amongst them Montenegro, that the potential, it is still a kind of white spot on the tourism map, and the positioning of Balkans as such is adventure, is unspoiled nature, is living traditions. Of course, as Jelena said, we need to go with the time, but the question is to equilibrate a development which means change. It will always means change. You will not go to cartoons eternally on donkeys or horseback. People want to get there. Even the owners want to get there, and especially their kids that shall take over want to get there in a decent time with their four-wheel drive, not with a Ferrari, but yes, with a four-wheel drive. So of course you need to be careful, because it is definitely the core example of what the image of Balkans could be for the international tourism market. And the worst thing you can do is spoil the reality of what is creating your image, because people expect to be able to see this, to experience this, and if it's gone, the whole thing falls apart. This does not mean that it needs to be a majority activity, but it must be alive. It must be alive, it must be visitable, and it must be authentic. Not a Disney World or a Heidi installation somewhere in the mountains, but something where people say, okay, yes, we have a mobile phone, yes, we have internet connection, but we keep this style of authentic, sustainable economy, rural economy alive in this area. Talking about this, let's have a look also at the sustainability aspect from the overall economy. These mountain economies, not only cartoons, which are a seasonal thing by climate, but any high mountain agriculture has a very high importance for the equilibrium of nature, of ecosystems, of landscape, of avoiding natural disasters by deforestation, by not taking care about the landscape. So there is an interest beyond the fact that it's purely profitable from economy side of view to keep these human settlements alive and keep them going. So I think you can play two cards. You can play the card, of course, it's an external extra income for people who live there, who have the activity, but at the same time it serves a social function of maintaining ecosystems alive.
So it also serves the biodiversity, which is globally disappearing in a faster and faster pace. And I remember from our first tourism think tank, one of the speakers was saying like, here we might not be developed, but we are still preserved. And that is something which brings us ahead of the pack of the rest of Europe, because we don't have to do anything else but just stop destroying. Because we are living the United Nations decade of ecosystem restoration. If we stop destroying and building whatever is built there now, ski resorts and whatever hotels, if you stop destroying and take care of the space and the original values, you are ahead of the pack in front of the United Nations as well. UN decade of ecosystem restoration. The restoration is not needed. Just stop doing the wrong thing and think ahead. Don't think only in let's say 4 years periods when the elections are. Would you agree with me on this?
Fully, fully. You have the chance to not, but this is always easy said, and then in reality you find the problems you find. Don't commit the errors that you see others committed, but it seems sometimes that everybody needs to go through also bad experiences. It's not the most optimistic view, so I think you will have to make some bad experiences, but you will go very quickly through this learning curve where other countries took 20, 30 years, so you will hopefully do it in 2 or 3. And with this, you limit the damage that can happen at this time.
Yeah, yeah. When we are thinking full year tourism in the mountains, and we saw this year Montenegro had 0 skiing days, no? So the climate crisis is truly here. But on the other hand, we have over 150 peaks above 2,000 meters, no? Which is what is always promoted. But what do we do with that? I have seen now, like a couple of years, the first really good ideas developing with the backcountry skiing. Do you think that the mountain living people could profit from this and join this trend, which has been a great trend in the Alps, like doing skiing, well-guided skiing, safely guided skiing across the mountains and even across the borders? Because those areas are pretty not inhabited these days. What could be there, the vision also for more full year employment?
For the Katuns, I'm a bit pessimistic because it's remote zones with the roads that are not cleaned, and local people don't do backcountry skiing and snowshoeing unless for very short distances. So I'm not sure how they would be able to, though it can be in perspective happening, because if there is a demand, the ways would be found for sure. I'm a bit concerned what, in my experience, when there is no locally culture of certain activity or sport, then it's very difficult to build that offer because you have 0 support locally. You would have to have some locals doing it, promoting it, getting other people motivated about it before you try to sell it elsewhere as tourism offer. And unfortunately, we don't have the tradition in cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, at least not in the modern way of these.
I come from Finland, and I know the difference between cross-country skiing and backcountry skiing.
Okay.
So backcountry skiing is really the things that the alpine skiers do. They go up the mountains with their own power, without any lifts and huge infrastructure. So the interventions and the investment is minimal. And we see a couple of years now a successful model of that in the Ski Tour Fest, which is going cross borders. So cross-country skiing needs tracks. It needs machines to make those tracks. Now, not talking about that. Talking about the wild beauty of the mountains in winter. Now, would you see there as chance?
Of course, I've been in the mountains under snow. I mean, not me being under snow, but the mountains under the snow. It's beautiful landscape. It's, I mean, our country, our mountains are just awesome any time of the year. I would love to see that happening, and I would love to work with the rural tourism households that are accessible, that are willing and able to provide services for that kind of offer. It doesn't have to be Katuns. It can be in villages, because we would have we have villages on high altitudes. I think it would be easier to start in the villages rather than in Katuns. I would love to see that happening. Maybe some of the locals would get interested as well. You know, we Montenegrins, we like downhill skiing. We don't like to climb too much with skis. So hopefully we would get somebody motivated to.
Let's continue that conversation with the pioneering guides that are already there. Thank you so much, Jelena. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you.
And hope to see you in the next tourism think tanks, either as participants or again as speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.